If there's one bit of advice I can give you in 2026 for success in all areas of your life, it's this: keep it simple. Now, over the last 8 years, I've been working with busy executives and business owners to optimize their energy, mental clarity, and upgrade their bodies without hindering their work output. And one of the biggest mistakes I see most people make, especially with their fitness regime or fitness strategy, is they try and overcomplicate it. So imagine this: it's the end of 2026, and for once, you've got a grip of your consistency, your energy sky high, you're thinking sharper than ever, you're feeling better about yourself in your body and in your mind, and as a direct result, you're a better parent, better partner, and better leader for your team. Because let's face it, let's be real. The way you feel about yourself is in direct portion and how you operate. And if you feel good and look good, you also have this ability to handle stress better. Now, there's a one saying in the military that I've always latched onto, and it's this: keep it simple, stupid. There is so much information out there when it comes to your health and fitness, from grifters, influencers, to so-called professionals. We've also got ChatGPT mixing up the game as well. There's that much information that you've almost got paralysis by analysis. You've got all the knowledge, but you don't implement. Knowledge isn't power, implementation knowledge is power. So in this video, I'm going to simplify a strategy with your nutrition and with your fitness, your exercise regime, so that you can finish 2026 next year consistent and in much better position than you are now. So let's get into it. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is nutrition, because I think that's super important, especially with the amount of misinformation that is about there. So energy balance is key. What I mean by energy balance is calories in versus calories out. Now, you've probably heard certain professionals, fake doctors, fake gurus tell you that energy balance is bullshit. Okay, and it's about your hormones or when you eat at night. That's factually incorrect. Now, there is a clear abundance body of research from robust meta-analysis and robust studies that tell you that despite your hormones, despite at what time you eat, energy balance is key. I.e., if you eat more than you expend, you will gain weight. If you eat less energy, food, than you expend, you will lose fat. Yes, hormones and the time that you eat may have a slight impact on that and make it harder for you to lose weight, but energy balance is still at the crux of that. Now, this can be done in many different ways. There are many different diet styles that will initiate a calorie deficit. They all work via putting you in a calorie deficit, whether it's fasting, whether it's carnivore, whether it's keto, vegetarian diet. You will lose weight because you're in a calorie deficit. That's it. That's simple as that. So let's now talk about calories. Again, there are some people out there that say that calories do not matter. They're morons, because it's like saying the amount of money you have in your bank doesn't matter on your spending, okay, which isn't true. Because if you go into your overdraft, you usually have to pay interest. The same thing happens with your body. Apart from the interest is your fat accumulation. Having an idea of your macronutrient split and your calories will give you better toolkit to be able to make more informed choices when you're out with lunch with your clients or your business partners, when you're on the road traveling. So there are 3 macronutrients. We have protein, which has 4 kilocalories per gram. We have carbohydrates, 4 kilocalories per gram. And we have fats, which are 9 kilocalories per gram. Now, why is this important? Well, if you're constantly eating high fat foods with carbohydrates, that's going to push your calorie expenditure up, your calorie intake up. If you choose more lean sources of protein and carbohydrates, then that's not going to have as much as impact as it is you eating lots of fats. Now, apart from trans fats, fats are not bad for you, carbohydrates are not bad for you, protein is definitely not bad for you. Each macronutrient has a job in the body separate from the calories that you get. For example, protein is a makeup or a building block of hormones. Carbohydrates are used for energy and contain things like B vitamin 12, which helps with energy. And fats, they're going to protect you from inflammation, and also they make up from hormones as well, especially steroid hormones. So anyone that says that fats, carbohydrates are bad, they're full of shit. Okay, disregard. Now, it's very hard to find individual food sources that have just one macronutrient in. And in fact, it's nearly impossible. Each food source, each meal that you have will have a mixture of macronutrients, some higher than others. So it's a good idea to be able to guesstimate how many calories are going to be in your meal sources so that you can make more informed decisions. The easiest way to do that is definitely calorie counters like MyFitnessPal or Nutricheck, because you can log those in and actually see what the outcome is. And this is one of the things that I do with my clients that gets them to open their eyes to actually how much they're eating in a day. Now, yes, I'm not saying that everyone should calorie count for the rest of their lives, but it is an initial tool to build habits and to get direct feedback and direct data on the amount of food that you're eating. So when it comes to nutrition, there's a hierarchy of importance. And this is the things that you need to focus on first. And it's almost like building blocks. Just like a house. If you have shady foundations, the house is going to come crumbling down. And this is the main thing that I see off most people when they try in these different fad diets is they're miserable. They've got no energy and they hate their life. So the first thing that you need to take into consideration is sustainable deficit. However that looks like for you. If keto works for you, you can stick to it long term, cool. However, most of you like to have a little bit of alcohol, which is going to knock you out of ketosis anyway. So that's not going to work long time. And if you're like me, I fucking love bread. So keto is definitely not for me. Whether that's fasting, maybe you're someone that does not like breakfast, all right? Instead of trying to force feed you or force feed yourself breakfast, then you can have intermittent fasting. Just as long as you don't binge or overeat with the other two meals that pushes you out of a calorie deficit. Because that's one big thing people get wrong with intermittent fasting. They think just because they fast for 16 hours, they've got a whole pass to eat whatever they want. It doesn't work like that. Okay. Next thing up, high protein and resistance training. Now we're going to get into the training aspect of things a little bit later, but a high protein diet is going to do two things while you're in a deficit. It's going to maintain muscle mass or help to maintain muscle mass. You're not going to completely preserve all your muscle mass unless you're chemically assisted. But also it's going to keep you more satiated. Okay, high protein, lean proteins, especially lean proteins, they have more of an influence on keeping you satiated throughout the day. So just by increasing your portions of lean protein, that's going to help you feel fuller for longer and then stop cravings. Next thing we need to look at is sleep and stress. Big thing that most busy executives and business owners don't pay attention to is their recovery, which is sleep and stress. Now, if you're underslept and if you're overstressed, this is going to raise cortisol, which is going to increase cravings, and you're more likely to overeat. Okay. You're less likely to want to work out, and you're less likely to choose the right option, and more likely to order in from Just Eats or Uber Eats, whatever it is that you fancy the most. Next level up, cardio. Now, the reason why cardio is at the top is because you don't have to do cardio. You can get away with just losing weight via diet. Most of my clients, or some of my clients, should I say, have achieved that just by diet and walking. Now, cardio in itself is better at burning fat. Remember, burning fat, burning calories is not the same as losing fat or losing weight. And this is where a lot of people go wrong, especially veterans that I've worked with in the past. They think they can beast themselves and out-fizz or out-exercise a bad diet. It doesn't happen like this. It doesn't happen like that. Again, we'll go on to cardio program in a little bit. But if you're someone that is not paying attention to your diet and is just saying, I'm going to run to lose weight, then it may work in the interim, first month, few weeks, but then it's going to stop having an effect. There is also a negative effect on the more cardio that you do over a certain point, the hungrier you will get. Your body will then compensate for that by eating more energy or eating more food, which is counterproductive. Last but not least, all right, my top pet peeve on social media, especially on like things like TikTok Shop, is people pushing supplements to lose fat or selling supplements by bullshitting people that, it's not the fact that you're not in a calorie deficit to lose your weight. It's because, your insulin's high and you should buy this supplement for your gut that will reduce insulin and make you shed loads of weight. That is fucking bullshit. If we look at the fat loss supplements out there, they're pretty poor. Caffeine, green tea is probably the best ones out there, but they will only work if you are in a calorie deficit. Now, the caveat to this, and I'm going to draw on the screen, is if, you are in a state, you're quite obese, got a lot of body fat, food noise is quite predominant, and no matter what diet you try, you're always craving from like day one, week one. Then we might look at bringing something in like Ozempic or a GLP-1 mimetic to help you calm down that food noise. Now you might be thinking, well, injections are cheating, fat loss injections are cheating. That's bullshit. Okay. If it helps someone who is morbidly obese get on the right paths, get on the right habits, and actually get some success, which then gives them a good feedback loop so they continue to do the exercise and the eating healthily, then that's a good thing for me. What isn't a good thing is people that aren't super obese, that don't want to exercise, that don't want to diet, and just want to take this GLP-1 Ozempic as a shortcut. It doesn't work like that. All right, you still need to be doing the correct things, like focusing on whole foods, focusing on your protein, exercising, resistance training, because if you're not and you lose a hell of a lot of weight, you're going to lose a lot of muscle mass as well, which is bad, because muscle mass is metabolically taxing on the body. The body does not need or does not want excess muscle mass because it takes up so much more energy versus fat stores. So that's the other caveat to that. So let's just take a time out now and let's go back for a quick overview of nutrition. Remember, calorie deficit will always create the results, no matter what diet you follow, whether it's keto, intermittent fasting, carnivore. They work by initiating a calorie deficit. You should be focusing on whole foods, protein. Definitely wants to be high, around about 1.8 gram I like to give to my clients. But if you're someone that's not used to eating a lot of protein and you try and go like super high to 2 grams or 2.2 grams, then you may have some digestive issues and you may struggle to finish your food, which is quite a cool thing. Protein plays a role in keeping you satiated. It also keeps a role in keeping your muscle mass. And no matter what grifter you listen to or what so-called professional you listen to, calories does matter. So the next thing I want to go into is your fitness element. So how are you going to program your fitness that is a simple and effective way? Now, again, there's a lot of information about this, a lot of confusing information, but most of it is minoring in the details. Most of you do not need to take advice from pro bodybuilders because you don't want to be a bodybuilder, from pro strength athletes because you don't want to be a pro strength athlete. Yes, there may be some people that are watching this that do want that, and you probably want to watch either a pro bodybuilder or a pro strength athlete, but I'm talking to the normies, as I like to call it, the people that just want to look good and feel good. So following the same path as keeping it simple, stupid, let's dive into the fitness element of it. So there are two components that I want to talk about today. It's resistance training and cardio. Now, I'm not saying that you should not do mobility, that you should not do flexibility work, but when it comes to changing the shape of your body, either adding muscle mass or losing fat or just getting generally healthier, these are the two main focus points that people go into. With resistance training, whether it's just hypertrophy work, bodybuilding work, whether it's strength work, whether it's CrossFit, whether it's calisthenics, right, press-ups, squats and sit-ups, etc. Those are all under the umbrella of resistance training. Now, I'm quite confident in saying this, that even for the cardio bunnies amongst you, the cyclists, the keen runners, the keen swimmers, you should be doing some sort of resistance training, because the research is very, very clear that it helps with strength and conditioning, i.e. helping you stave off those niggles and those injuries that's going to stop you from running. Also, resistance training has got a longevity effect. Okay, as we grow older, our muscle mass goes down, which has a twofold effect. It's going to change how our body assimilates food, and it's also going to hinder our mobility and our dexterity and our strength, and it's going to make us frailer quicker. So if we can maintain our muscle mass, not necessarily increase it, then that's going to be you being more independent as we go on into a life, so that you're not relying on people to do things for you. So when you're first starting out, you may be super keen, right? Super motivated. You've had a couple of weeks off for Christmas. You're well fed, all right, and you want to change. So your motivation is extremely high through the roof. So you might think, right, I'm going to smash the gym every single day. And I see this all the time, especially on Facebook, is what I call the new year, new me wankers. They go straight to 10, run every day. They try and change everything, try and change all the habits, basically try and become monks and then burn off in 2 or 3 weeks. Now, most of my clients, most of you watching this, won't want to be in the gym 5 times a week, which is totally cool. You may only have 2 or 3 days that you want to train. So let's say we want to train on a Tuesday, all right, because Monday is manic. You've got far too many emails, far too many meetings, and it's just chaos. So you might only be able to train Tuesday and a Saturday, because Wednesday to Thursday, Wednesday to Friday, you're on the road, you've got meetings, you may be flying to a different country, and you don't get back while late Friday. If that's you, I would suggest doing a full body training split, because you can get some decent results just training 2 times a week. For most of you, even just training once a week is going to have a profound effect. Now, training splits on the internet are in huge debate right now. And it all depends basically on your goal. If you are someone that wants to chase strength, then that is going to look completely different to someone that wants to build as much muscle as possible. Most of you don't have the time, you don't have the willing to commit to doing extreme things. There is a benefit of building muscle on strength. The more muscle you have, the more capacity for strength that you have. The stronger that you are, the more volume that you can have, or the more volume you can push, the more weight you can push. And they're the two key differences, or that's the key difference, should I say. Volume, going close to failure. Now, when we're looking at building muscle, we should be training close to failure. All right. Some of you don't even know, have never known what failure looks like. So when people say, don't train to absolute failure all the time, it may be beneficial for most of you to go there once you've got the foundations correct, because then you have a set point what you can feel. Training close to failure for pure strength is detrimental to your performance. So crushing everything to all-out failure with heavy loads is going to be very, very taxing to your body. You should be looking at making whatever exercise that you're looking for as easy as possible when it comes to strength. Now, when it comes to exercise selection, you want to be looking at doing compound movements. Okay, so I'm talking about bench press, press ups, pull ups if you can, squats, deadlifts, because they will give you the most bang for your buck. Okay, you don't need to do things like supersets, although they do work if your time is very, very precious to you and you've only got like 30 minutes to train. Then you might add, say, a bench press and then go straight into a pull-up or a lat pull-down instead of waiting in between to do that. That's going to condense your session. But you want to be doing compound movements with heavy weight, close to failure for the majority of your workouts. Not this fancy Instagram stuff that you see with your, your cuffed cable flies and stuff like that. You don't need to worry about that. Just focus on the compounds and progressing those compound movements over time. This is another mistake that I see people make. It's that they lift the same weight over and over again and expect things to change. Your body will only adapt to the stress that you give it. So if you're not trying to beat your score that you've got on your bench press by either a rep, by either weight, like a little bit of a biscuit weight, like a 0.5, then your body won't adapt. So you should always be looking at getting progressive overload. If you are someone that wants to train more than 2-3 times a week, then we can look at doing upper body, lower body splits. So something that I'm doing now is upper body, lower body, rest, upper body, lower body, rest. You could do a push-pull legs. You could do a full body, followed by a day off, followed by a push-pull legs. There is many ways to skin the cat, but you need to keep into consideration longevity of performance. You should always act and always execute your workouts as if you were in the busiest period of your life, because then when that busiest period is over, you'll still be able to maintain that the whole year through. So let's now move on to workout execution. So I've already said that you need to be focused on the basics, the compound lifts. But how does that look like in a singular session for a single exercise? And there are 3 things that we need to look on here. All right, there are 3 variables that we can tweak. First is going to be reps. Now, I'm going to prescribe to you a rep range of 6 to 12. Now, I know what you're saying. If you want to get strength, then you need to be lifting less weight, 1 to 5, in adherence to the literature. Muscle building, you can get away with doing 5 to 30 reps. Now, just because we can do something doesn't mean that we should do something. For example, I don't think anyone, unless you're a competitive strength athlete, should be doing fucking 1 rep maxes. Why? Because most of you, your technique is fucking awful. And the more weight that you move, the more intense your output is, then that's going to pay impact on your joints, but also it's going to bring you closer to potentially injuring yourself, which is not good. You can still get strong by doing 4 reps, by doing 5 reps, by doing 6 reps. So it tends to be an ego thing. You just want to lift as much as you can. Remember, most of you watching this, you ain't fucking spring chickens anymore, all right? You're probably over 40. If you get injured, it's going to take a long time to recover. And that's going to impact your business and impact your family as well. So park the ego. Don't do 1 rep maxes unless you're a competitive athlete. Now, for the bodybuilding rep range, the 5 to 30. Again, doing 30 reps with a barbell back squat is going to be very, very different from doing 30 reps from a leg extension. 30 reps from a back squat is probably going to see your cardiovascular system gassing out first before you bring your quads or your glutes close to failure. So if you're doing something and you know that it's not bringing you close to failure in your target muscle that you're trying to work, like your chest and a bench press, then either manipulate the rep range and the weight or change exercises. Right? Some of you might feel better doing dumbbell chest press versus a bench press. It might just fit better with your joints. Some of you might be wanting to do machines, which is totally fine. Okay, machines not bad for you. They're not going to cause you injury. So that's reps. Now, sets. If you're a newbie, you will probably get good results from 1 set to all-out failure to close to failure. Okay, always start with a minimum effective dose, because if you can get results by doing 5 exercises but just doing 1 set of a hard work, why wouldn't you do that? There's this popular belief that is birthed from the bodybuilder magazines that you need to do high volume work. Now, there are some instances where you will need to do high volume work with like 4 sets of 12 for 5 different exercises on one body part. But for most of you watching this, it's just garbage volume. Focus on executing your sets properly and you will get the results from it if your recovery is on point. Because remember, exercise doesn't really create the adaptations. It's the recovery from the stress imposed upon you that will give you the results. So 1 to 3 sets. If you're going down the pure strength route, you may need to do more sets the more advanced you get. But again, that will come with longevity of your training age. Rest time. This is a big one. Now, when I first started working out, back when I was 16, which is a long time ago, I only had like Flex magazine, Men's Health magazine, and Muscle and Strength. So I was following the bodybuilding workouts that were doing like 45 seconds rest in between, 30 seconds rest to a minute. There's new research that's just been published that basically compares people that have 1 minute of rest to 3 minutes of rest. The people who have 3 minutes of rest build more muscle. The people that had 1 minute rest still built muscle. It's just that more rest equals more muscle. Obviously, going beyond that, 10 minutes rest, that's probably not going to be an effective workout for you unless, again, you're a high level strength athlete. I think Thor takes like 15 minutes off in between sets because he's lifting a hell of a lot of weight and he weighs a lot. Okay, so he needs longer to recover in between that. Now, that's not saying that you can't go down to 45 seconds rest. And especially if you're someone that is time poor, then doing 45 seconds rest is still going to give you some sort of stimulus. But if you have the luxury of having more time in the gym, more time with the training at home, then between 2 to 3 minutes rest for compound movements is optimal. Okay. For non-compound movements, for sort of isolation movements like your bicep curls, because you want to get massive guns, then you can look to bring that down to about a minute, 90 seconds. So let's move now on to cardio. So one of the biggest questions that I get asked is, what should I do first? If I've got to do cardio and resistance training in one session, which should I do first? Now, there are those on the internet that say that you shouldn't do because there's an interference effect. That's bullshit. Okay, there's been a lot of literature released that if you're doing cardio and resistance training in one session, it has no impact. But I would do resistance training first, unless you are training for like a marathon, swimming, cycling event. Then obviously you want to focus on your main goal when you're the freshest, when you've got the most energy, the most recovered, and you've got more intensity to put into that. However, most of you don't want to do that watching this. Most of you want to get more progression out of your lifts. So you definitely want to do your resistance training first. Okay, because that's going to be the most taxing energy-wise, mentally, and physically on the body. Now, list versus HIIT. Okay, so light intensity steady state cardio, medium intensity steady state cardio versus high intensity interval training. Which one's the best for fat loss? Which one's the best for performance? Again, when it comes to fat loss, the studies that we have, there is no difference in body composition change between low intensity steady state cardio, so you doing like 40 minutes on the cross trainer, versus doing a 20-minute HIIT session. Now, if you're someone that is time poor, high intensity interval training is going to be better for you because you're going to get more bang for your buck. Now, things I want to talk about now is steps. So again, there's a lot of misinformation about this. Don't be afraid to do steps, all right, just to increase your activity. When it comes to cardio, when it comes to training, the calorie output, the calorie burn, should I say, is only around 5% of your total daily energy expenditure. So focusing on that solely isn't an effective way just to lose weight. There's a big caveat and a big sort of like stigma around walking not being a form of cardio. Now, if you want to run, and if you want to be a runner or a long distance runner, if you want to do an event like a 5K, a Tough Mudder or whatever, then you're going to need to run. Specificity is key. But I'm very much a person that concentrates on longevity. When you're picking a training regime, you should be thinking, am I going to enjoy this? And can I carry this on to my older age? Most of that is going to be from weight training and doing steps. So, just to recap, there's a lot of misinformation out there on the internet about diet and exercise. Most of these people, most of these influencers, grifters, so-called professionals are majoring in the minors. Most of you don't need to do some complex workout. You don't need to do some complex fasting protocol. You just need to do the basics. So, simple steps that you can take is download a calorie counter, have a look at a 7-day period, for example, of how much you're eating, and then see what happens to your weight and your waist measurements over that 7 days, sorry. If you've gained, then you need to look at bringing calories down. If you've lost, then keep it where it is. Having a sustainable plan that focuses on the basics is going to give you so much of a more of an ROI than trying to do some complicated program that doesn't fit with your lifestyle. You should be trying to fit training into your lifestyle, not your lifestyle into training. Hopefully you found this video useful, and I'll see you on the next one.